I've already spoken with a lot of you over breakfast, and I think the number one topic that came up was AI, which is why I'm very excited to be here with both of our panelists. But the number one thing I heard was people asking me, what are the specific use cases? I need a case study for how other people use it so I can bring it back to my company. So Terra, Sebastian, I want to start by asking, how are you each using AI, both internally and externally? And Sebastian, let's start with you.
Sure. You know, look, for us, AI, we deploy very widely across the organization, and we really deploy it in three different buckets. One is driving workflow efficiencies, as probably many others in this room. And there's a couple examples that come to my mind. One I would highlight is medical coding. So in our industry, when we run very large-scale clinical trials, we have to translate medical events that are often described in plain language into code so that we can ultimately analyze the data. And that's something we do quite extensively through the use of AI. We've estimated in a recent clinical study that has saved us about 170,000 hours of work. So it's very significant and drives efficiencies. Another example in that bucket of workflow efficiencies is regulatory submissions. We're mandated by the FDA and many other regulatory bodies around the world to submit very extensive documentation as we seek the approval of clinical or of products, of medicines. And we use generative AI to populate about 70 to 80% of those dossiers today. And if you translate that into efficiencies and savings and ultimately acceleration, it's significant. The second bucket in which we use AI is to advance patient care. So an example in that space is mammograms. Some of you may know that it's Breast Cancer Awareness Month, and some in the audience may have gotten or may regularly get mammograms. But what many individual people don't realize is that it's in fact not one image, but hundreds of images that are being taken. And we provide software to radiologists that helps select the best image so that they can appropriately diagnose the patient. And mammograms and breast cancer is one area. We do this in other spaces as well. What's most exciting to me personally, as I think about AI though, is the use of AI and technology in drug discovery. Because at the end, you know, we're in the business of bringing medicines to patients as quickly as we can. And that's a pretty challenging task. We spend about $1.5 billion to $2 billion on each medicine that we bring to market. It takes us 12 to 15 years, and we fail most of the time. And technology can help us significantly accelerate that work. An example in that space for us is our partnership with a company called Recursion, a company in which we're an investor, and a company that has arguably and likely the most advanced AI-guided drug discovery platform in our industry. And we partner with them in them bringing technology, so deep expertise in technology, data sciences, and use our library of compounds to essentially identify and develop novel cancer therapeutics. And that just gives me chills because, hey, that's the use of AI to drive real impact and ultimately develop medicines that otherwise would not see the light of day.
Absolutely, and it touches everyone here too. Just like Google DeepMind, Terra, tell us what you're doing over there. I think probably everyone in this room is using the tech that you developed, so tell us about what you're doing.
Thank you. So Google DeepMind is Google's artificial intelligence unit. We create Gemini, the foundational large language model for Google, as well as a host of other technologies, which are, while not in the large language model category, are also being used for example, fundamental scientific discovery, just as you described, Sebastian. So we too are using internal and external the model in different ways. Internally, legal is an example of where we have found great use for Gemini. In our legal system, you can think of legal problems as having three different categories. There's retrieval of information, there's summarization, and then there is reasoning. And we are finding Gemini is valuable across all of those categories. Retrieval of information, of course, is finding the information that you know you have somewhere, but you can't put your hand on it right there, right at that moment. Summarization, and that's really the basic, I would say, use case of simply retrieving and finding that information, but it saves a remarkable amount of time. We're estimating that 40 to 50% of the requests to our legal team could be handled simply by that kind of automation. On summarization, again, you're retrieving the information, but you're also pulling out what is most relevant. This is a more difficult problem, particularly in the case of a legal context, because you don't want to miss an item that might be important. So our team is increasingly using generative AI to review, for example, scientific papers and say what does need legal review in this case and what does not. And then third, reasoning as probably the most exciting category. Legal problems, as you know, are a good test case for Gen AI because they are often unstructured, ambiguous, and can have many different answers depending on jurisdiction, depending on business choices. So reasoning, we think, is the next frontier here, and the initial results are promising. Would not be complete without also adding to your point, Sebastian, about scientific discovery. And this is an area, our mission at Google DeepMind is to build AI responsibly to benefit humanity. And we are particularly proud of our work in scientific fields, including AlphaFold, which is the transformational protein folding technology. We created it, we won the International Challenge of Protein Folding with this technology, and in fact released all of the 220 million plus proteins in the database for free for researchers to use in their own applications, including drug discovery.
Excellent, and I'm going to come to the audience for questions in just a second, but I have one for both of you. There's a lot of fear-mongering when it comes to AI. AI is going to steal my job, both internally and externally. I feel like people are very, very scared to use it, whether it's bias and, again, people being scared about how it's going to affect them. What would each of you say is the biggest pitfall that you would advise COOs against when implementing AI into their business strategies? Sebastian, let's start with you.
Sure. So first, in our industry, I actually don't think that AI is going to steal jobs because, hey, unpacking 3 billion years of evolution compressed in a cell is pretty damn difficult.
Yep.
And that will continue to require also human capacity and the art of science, which we're marrying up with technology. Big pitfalls. I mean, in our industry, we cannot and will not compromise patient safety. So we're building a lot of redundancy into the way we work. I gave you the example of medical coding earlier, and in that example, we use a 4I principle. So we, in fact, use technology, but then we still have humans double-check that whatever data entry we put into the systems is accurate. And that's only appropriate given that patient safety cannot be compromised. Mm-hmm. One piece of advice I would have from my own personal experience is that in large organizations, and maybe that also resonates with some in the audience, there's at times a risk to use technology for technology's sake, you know? And in my mind, at the end of the day, it's a means to an end. And the end, in our case, is to bring new medicines to the world at a much faster pace than we would have otherwise been able to. And it's not about chasing shiny toys just for the sake of chasing them.
Makes sense. Terra, what advice do you have?
Yes, I would echo that in that AI is an unparalleled tool for fundamental scientific discovery. So how can we look beyond the immediate applications and think about how much there is yet to be discovered to solve fundamental human problems? Now, that said, certainly we want to be mindful of how we're asking our people to use artificial intelligence internally because of those fears you just discussed. To me, the most important principle there is co-creation. So how can you, with your team, co-create how the AI will be truly helpful to them in doing the job that they are already doing? They are the experts in doing that role. And I believe there's plenty of low-hanging fruit. There is plenty of paperwork to be automated so that high-skilled people can go do more high-value tasks. But that co-creation piece is key. I'd say also making sure that you're valuing the time that people are putting in to learn how to use these systems and rewarding them for doing so. In tech, we have a wonderful culture of dog fooding and using our own products internally. And I would simply say that it's important to value the time people invest in that. And then third, think forward about what this means for people's careers, both in reality and in perception. What new training might people need? How might this contribute to their training and learning in a way that's intrinsically valuable?
I want to come back to training in a second, but does anyone in the audience have any questions here? And raise your hand and we can run a mic around. I see one over there.
Yeah, just in general, you talk about the growth of AI and the need for data centers all over the place. What do you guys think about like power for the future and your needs? Power for the data centers?
Power for the data centers. It's an important question. It's a question on many people's minds these days. Again, we have to think about the fundamental scientific advances that are going to be possible with this technology. We actually at Google DeepMind work on novel power applications as well. So we have a piece on optimal power flow, on how to increase efficiency in data centers to reduce the amount of power that is being consumed. We also do work on fusion, nuclear fusion, and how to optimize reactors and the fusion reaction inside of reactors, again, to get us closer to that place of renewable energy.
Excellent. Thank you, Tara. Any other questions? See one over here. Oh, and over here. Hi.
Hi, so I work at an autonomous vehicle company, a Gen AI-based autonomous vehicle company, and I found it really interesting with the release of ChatGPT and the popularization of Gen AI. There's been kind of an increased fear of AI and the potential impact it could have in society. I was wondering if you guys saw something similar and what that shift looked like between the AI conversation and the Gen AI conversation.
Maybe I'll get us started. You know, in our industry, there's very few individuals that are ready to put their health into the hands of machines, and rightfully so, in my mind. So we've had a lot of conversations over the years, more so in recent times, to your point, because it's suddenly in the public domain, on how we use AI responsibly and how we ultimately augment the work physicians and clinicians do, but don't necessarily aim to replace it. And that's a philosophy that keeps driving us, because we continue to believe that humans will, for time to come, play a very important role when it comes to advancing the health of those that we serve.
Mm-hmm. And I would add, I think all of you play a role in that too, in how you deploy these technologies in the world, in your workplace.
Makes sense. I saw one over here.
Thank you. Hi. Thank you for the reminder around purpose-driven AI. I think that was beautiful, so thank you so much. So my question to both of you is that, what is the importance in your mind of learning about AI from other industries? And if that is important, how do you set your organizations up for being open to receiving ideas from other industries around us? Thank you.
I believe this comes back to co-creation again. So we want to build artificial intelligence with people, not just for people. So that intelligence comes into us from a variety of different routes. I mean, customers are a wonderful source of information. We also work with outside organizations across a variety of represented constituencies, industries, to try and understand what will create value for people. And I'd say at GDM, we are especially focused on the scientific community, because again, we want to understand what will be of most value to scientists. How can we help them create the next fundamental breakthrough that will transform our futures?
And maybe just as a quick build, you know, in our industry, we learn quite extensively from others. The promise of AI in the pharmaceuticals industry is massive, but we are, for very good reasons as an industry, probably progressing somewhat slower than others. You know, I sometimes describe this jokingly as the race of the turtles. But that's a very conscious choice, because as said before, you know, we're not going to compromise patient safety, and the work we do has such a big impact on those that we serve that we cannot take shortcuts, and we probably and possibly can't sort of experiment to the same extent other industries can. But that also gives us an opportunity, which is to learn.
Excellent. Well, thank you, audience, for the incredible questions. Thank you, Sebastian and Terra, for being here. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.